Welcome to Voices of Experience. In the next half hour, we will look at the Minnesota State Retiree Council, afl-cio. Why is there a State Retiree Council as part of Minnesota afl-cio? How did the Retiree Council come into existence, and how has it evolved over the years? And what challenges does the Retiree Council have as it moves into 2011? Rather than our usual one host and one guest, or occasionally two guests, today we have three co-equal leaders here. And two of us are past presidents, President Emeriti, and one is current president. And we'll let the viewer figure that out. So anyways, I'm Dan Michael, and our two other guests are Irv Neff and Martha Johnson. So Martha, as current president, you can ask the first question.
I'll ask the first question of Irv. Irv, could you give us some background about the culture and tradition of union retirees in Minnesota?
Minnesota has a long tradition based on our immigrants that came here from Northern Europe, where the tradition included people in the neighborhood taking care of other people in the neighborhood. In 1950, the Minneapolis Central Labor Council founded a retiree organization to help other retirees that were having difficulty. Other Central Labor Councils and local unions did similar things. They began to talk to one another, particularly in St. Paul, by having informal meetings and going to state afl-cio conventions, even though they were retired. As many as 50 to 60 delegates would be retirees. So there's a long traditional base for concern and engagement by retirees in Minnesota.
And so how did the Retiree Council come to exist?
Well, in 1997, Bernard Brommer was president of the Minnesota afl-cio. He was receiving lots of encouragement from Lane Kirtland, then the president of the National afl-cio, to form in Minnesota, as other state Fed presidents were asked in other states, to form retiree organizations. And Bernie Brommer convened a meeting in St. Paul with a lot of attendees, many of them retirees, to talk about should we get one started, and the answer from that group was yes.
And what level of encouragement or support did the Retiree Council have in the process of being established?
Well, the support was dramatic, and Wayne Whitman should be mentioned in this. Wayne's now an officer with the Retiree Council, because during the meeting in St. Paul, which Bernard Brommer chaired, the question was asked by Wayne Whitman, if under new rules, where there would not be as many retirees at state afl-cio conventions, was there a possibility that the president of the newly formed Retiree Council be a delegate to that convention? Bernard Brommer answered quickly, yes. Secretary Treasurer Peterson quickly answered yes. So you had the support of the leadership of the state afl-cio officers and the executive council.
And so at that time, was that when the, well, I think it's a constitutional imperative that the president of the State Retiree Council is on the Minnesota afl-cio Executive Board, and the General Board was established at that time?
That followed.
Okay, can you say a little about that, how that came to be and how it has worked out?
After the State Retiree Council was formed, had its constitution, and a constitution approved both by the Minnesota afl-cio and the National afl-cio. The National afl-cio also took as a task to begin to take a look at reorganizing state afl-cio units, the actives. In the reorganization process, the president of the Retiree Council was included as a member of the executive committee and placed in their constitution so that it is now and approved by the National afl-cio. So that's now a part of the formal structure. for Retiree Council and for all of labor in Minnesota.
Okay. And could you, the Retiree Council has a structure of affiliates rather than direct individuals joining the Minnesota State Retiree Council. Affiliate organizations join. Could you explain that structure a little bit?
All local unions and international unions have members. I'm a member of the Musicians Union. The Musicians Union, like teachers' unions or afl-cio or others, then affiliate as an organization with the State Retiree Council, just like they affiliate with the afl-cio actives.
Okay.
So members, we have 0 members,
Yeah.
but we have many affiliates.
Okay.
They have a lot of members.
Yeah. From what unions did the earliest affiliates come?
There were 13 members originally on the retiree executive board. 4 were electricians, IBEW, from around the state, 2 from the metropolitan area, 1 from Rochester, and 1 from East Grand Forks. There were other members of the building trades, carpenters, etc., and public employees from afl-cio, from the teachers. Of course, today that membership is broadened and many more unions are able to participate.
Don Anderson was a great Dane. Speaking as one who shares Danish heritage with the late Don Anderson, as a member of the letter carriers, what role did he have in developing affiliates?
First, Don had a role inside the letter carriers executive committee where he was responsible for retirees. The letter carriers charged Don with a further responsibility, knowing that he was going to be a part of the State Retiree Council, to make sure all the many letter carrier locals, or lodges as they're called, became a part of a State Retiree Council. Don took his knowledge and his enthusiasm and brought that to the State Retiree Council, and working with another Great Dane, managed to expand the...
Okay. And we're at the point now where we have approximately 235 affiliates from a wide... How did this program, the Voices of Experience, get established? And who was the prime mover behind that?
Mike Cotter from the Steelworkers, a retired U.S. Navy member, had a lot of experience in knowing how to do it. He understood the labor movement very well. He was a natural person to do it. He enthusiastically took the bull by the horn, so to speak, and did a fantastic job.
Okay. Now let's turn to the area of political action. We've directed a number of questions at Irv, and now I'll go on the hot seat here. And President Martha Johnson, what is your first question?
Well, why don't you just kind of give us some background and run through the history of the involvement of the Retiree Council in political efforts?
In 2000, I was employed by the American Federation of Teachers to work on Betty McCollum's campaign, working with all the school districts in the 4th Congressional District. And then Irv was president, and then Irv said, "Well, why don't you check in on the retirees too? Besides your prime responsibility of doing the thing with the school district." I said, "Sure, I'll do that." So Patty Steer, who was the state fed employee who was assigned to work with retirees, we would touch base every single morning. We'd say, "Hi, Patty. Hi, Dan. How are things going? What can I do?" So actually, I did spend most of my time on what I was supposed to be doing, and then just started a little bit with the retiree group, and we did some things with the rapid response and so forth. But it was a bit later before we got heavy duty into our political program. But it started with a little small line in the job description, so to speak.
Dan, to what extent today do you work with the Minnesota afl-cio election efforts?
I'm happy to say that we work as one, and we are part of afl-cio. As Martha mentioned earlier, the president of the group is part of the general board and the executive board, and we are part of the labor effort in any given election. Labor 2006, 2008, Labor 2010, Labor 2012, et cetera. And our plans are part and parcel of the state afl-cio. We do not do our own screening or make our own endorsements. We work within the AFL structure on that, but we're just part of the total effort, and the state afl-cio knows what we do, and they come to us occasionally with some other ideas, and we usually jump right in and do what we are asked to do.
And you do it very well.
Okay.
What challenges have you faced when you had to establish really a rapid response, like even a rapid response program?
Yeah. First, we have to get people to volunteer. That's the first thing. We want their name on file, name, address, phone number. Now we want email numbers and so forth. First, we have to get them to do that, and then secondly, we have to keep the list up to date. And as with the list of any group, keeping lists current is always a challenge. It's not only the fact that our members are older and some may no longer be able to be active, or in fact their health does not permit them to be active. But even something like as simple as people's email addresses change. So one of the things that we have to do every single year, every time we're getting ready to do something, is to go through our rapid response list and are you still there? Are you still willing to do things? Would you rather do this rather than that? And as well as constantly try to get new people onto the rapid response list. But that database is very, very helpful to us, and it forms the core of our political program.
And to put forward a political program requires some resources of money and other kinds of expertise. What unions have helped the Retiree Council as we've done these political efforts?
You use the word resources. So one thing I've learned is that resources is a very nice way of saying money. And it started with national afl-cio funding a great deal of our first program, and the state building trades in Minnesota, the American Federation of Teachers, state afl-cio itself. The fact that we have an office, at afl-cio, that we have clerical assistants, that we have the photocopying equipment. That's all very helpful. And then many other local unions have also donated resources of one type or another, and the various regional groups, such as St. Paul Regional Labor Federation, as one example, but also the East Central, Southern Dakota County, when we were first getting established, they're very helpful. But it all started with national afl-cio.
Okay. And that was with political efforts primarily we're talking about. But
Yes.
we've had other things that we spend money on too at the Retiree Council. What have we done to get other money for operating?
We